Hello, welcome. I'm Grace and I'm here with the lovely Camilla Cream to talk all things social media, communications and marketing and how we can make ourselves even more amazing as burlesque performers, particularly when we come out of these difficult corona times. I feel like every time I say the corona times, it sounds like a newspaper. But yeah, I might flick over to Camilla and let her tell you all a bit about herself and her background because she's really got some really amazing, diverse history, not just as a burlesque performer, but with experience in so many other things that I think we can all benefit from.
Yeah, thanks, Grace. I'm super excited to be here tonight. I think this is one of those things that kind of gets pushed by the wayside. So I think it's nice to have this downtime when we're not pushing shows and stuff. We can actually sit down and have a good chat about it and hopefully put some things in place so that, yeah, when the COVID times are over, we're ready to go. But yeah, so I have been a burlesque performer for about I think 7 years now. And I'm from Melbourne, so I live in Melbourne, but I do travel around Australia, all that stuff. Yet to see the world, hopefully soon, but we'll see. And I've been producing shows for I think 3 or 4 years now, so I kind of have a bit of experience with both ends of the show spectrum, from applying for shows and performing in them to producing them myself. But I came from a teaching background, which I still do for a little bit of a day job. So that was a very different scene, going from teaching into performing. And then with producing, I guess I really liked the idea of marketing a show and promoting, and that was something that I had no idea about. So I did a lot of learning about that. And earlier this year, I just finished my qualification in marketing and communications. So I feel like I'm much better equipped to promote my own shows and help other people promote themselves as artists, which I think is super important, especially when we've got shows to promote. So we can only promote ourselves now, and who are we as performers, and what kind of message we want to put out, and what do we want to stand for. So I think this is going to be a really great time to do that. And I suppose my passion for that and performing and teaching was sort of all combined into one, and I created a program. So I call it the Profitable Performer Program, and it's all about building your branding and your marketing and business skills so that you can make a bit of a proper profit rather than just sort of doing performing as a hobby. So yeah, I guess that's a bit about them.
It is really important. It's something I'm really passionate about is, the art is great, but it's also making sure you can eat and pay your bills and even get yourself a little bit ahead of the curve too, and take some of that stress away. And we all know marketing and comms is a big part of keeping yourself alive and bookable, I guess, as a performer. So I guess my question is, what are the big mistakes that you think performers, maybe particularly in our industry, are making in like social media or general in the way that they're approaching their communications?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a really important one. I just had a giant conversation with a performer just before this call about branding, and I think everything comes back to branding, because I was trying to think about what could my answer be to this question, but I think it all really comes back to the base of branding. If you don't know who you are as an artist, everything that you're putting out is just going to be a real mismatch of everything that you've done. And I think that's definitely a big mistake I made when I started performing, that I didn't have an idea of who I was. I was kind of just creating all these acts for shows because I wanted to be in all these shows, and that kind of resulted in me not knowing who I was. And then I think ultimately led to not really getting booked, because then the producers didn't know who I was, and it was really a tough sell trying to get a gig, because they didn't know if I would fit with their show or not.
Yeah, because they didn't know what your style was or your aesthetic or what you would bring.
Yeah.
It would have been really different each show to show.
Exactly. And so I think really sitting back and going, well, who do I want to be as a performer, and what kind of art do I want to put out to the world, and do I want to spread a message, or do I want to have a certain value that I want to give to people? What kind of asset would I be to a team of performers in a cast, and what makes me unique and different? And I think those kind of things we don't think about often enough. Sometimes we go, oh yeah, I'm really good at this, like I might be a great fan dancer, but that's not something I guess that's a brand. It could be part of my brand, but it's not key element. There's so many different things that go into branding, and I think that message of what you stand for kind of permeates through everything. And once you kind of know that, then everything stems from there. You can choose color palette, and you can, you know, choose what kind of words to describe you as a performer and what kind of style or genre you want to go with. But I think it all definitely comes down to branding. And if you know your branding, I see it all the time. Like performers that have super strong branding, they know who they are. They're the ones that are just getting booked all the time.
Yeah, and I guess when we talk about brand, it's probably really important for people to remember that it's not we're not talking about the logo. Like when you see McDonald's or you see like Amnesty International, you know, there's a logo there, sure, but the brand is more than the M or the symbol.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good point. There's a lot of people that do have logos, and I think, you know, if you want to go for that and sell some merch or whatever, that's great. But you are your brand, and that's kind of the fun thing about being a performer, that your face is your brand, and you as your art and your commodity, your performance is your brand, rather than just, oh, here's a logo, slap a logo on it and I'm done. It's a lot more than that. And marketing is so much more than just selling as well. And I think that's where people sort of get a bit maybe confused or overwhelmed, and they think, oh, I don't know how to sell, or I don't know what to do. But it's not just about selling. I think really as a performer, it's more about who are you as a performer, and building that following is more about your public relations and how you relate to other people and how you communicate with others, rather than just sell.
And how do you think we could use, you know, everyone's on social media, it's probably, you know, our most accessible way of communicating. I guess, how do you think performers can use that to actually get more gigs? Do you think the people that use it well are ultimately being booked more?
Yeah. I was having a chat with someone about this a couple of days ago, about people that are seen to be, I guess, more active on social media are the first people that you think of when you go to book people for a show. Talking with other producers, oh, who would you recommend? And the first people that come to my mind are the people that I see when I'm scrolling through Facebook. So the more that you're putting out there, and the more that you're communicating with people, whether that's via, you know, doing some commenting on people's posts, or whether that's putting out content of your own, you know, that's what sort of comes to light or comes to mind when producers are thinking of people to hire. And I would say that 90% of my performance opportunities come from social media. I'll get a message from a producer, or it might be there's an application link that tends to be promoted on social media, or it might be you know, in a group, someone's just putting a little call out, hey guys, you know, send me a message or comment on this thread. So I think that's a lot. Yeah, like I said, 90% of my show opportunities would come from using social media. So it's definitely a great tool to use, and it's free. So it's definitely something to consider. I mean, the other 10% come from my website, which costs me, you know, a small amount, but per year to run, and I've got to keep that up to date. But yeah, it's definitely social media with all the call outs and things, being part of those Facebook groups that are in your niche. So if you're a burlesque performer, searching up there's Burlesque Australia, searching up your city with the word burlesque in it, even cabaret shows and things like that are super great ways to get your name out there and connect with people, but also to get those job opportunities as well when they come back.
Yeah, and I think even if I think about clients that might have direct emailed me or booked through my website, at some point they have been on a social media platform, and that's how they've gotten to the website. So I've been at some point front of mind on Instagram, Facebook, you know, all of those things, in order to get to a website where they've maybe had a deeper dive or gotten to know, you know, me or a bit more about my business that way, and have taken a bit more time. But it's certainly, so it's certainly, they're all integrated, I guess, together to really tell that consistent story, hopefully. Vaguely consistent.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that word is really important too, consistency. If you know what your brand is, you can then permeate it throughout everything. So you've got your social media platforms, might be Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or whatever you feel like you communicate best through. And then a website that kind of links in with that. But as long as everything is quite similar, I think I posted something about this in my group the other day, about having consistency across everything. You know, your similar profile pictures, and cover photos and themes and things that connect everything together, and your messages spread across all of them, so that no matter what people click on to start to get to know you, the second thing they click on, they'll see it's quite consistent. They go, oh, okay, yeah, I understand that person. It's the same kind of thing, rather than getting one thing on LinkedIn and another thing on Facebook and another one on Instagram, and it's, you know, who is this performer? And I don't think I want to see them, or I don't want to be part of their show, or whatever it is.
Yeah, and do you think it's like, I guess with all the different platforms out there, you know, one of the things that I often think about is it important to just be trying to be on all of them and just reaching as many people as possible, or getting in as much as you can and spreading yourself? Or do you think it's better, especially for the performer that is trying to navigate social media or communications, is it better for you to focus a bit more on a smaller, you know, one platform, or spread yourself a little more? I guess, is it reach over how engaged you are?
That's a really good question. I think there's a little bit of both. For me, I just recently deleted my Twitter account because I just wasn't on it. I had not many followers. I think I had a couple hundred followers. No one was engaging with my content. No one was liking it or retweeting or commenting or anything, because I wasn't doing that. I wasn't going on Twitter and reading people's posts and being social. So if you're not going to be social on that platform and it's not the way that you communicate, I say don't do it.
Yeah.
But in saying that, I think it's great to have a few different places where you are found online, so you create a bit of a home or a bit of a hub. For me, for example, YouTube is there, and it's got all my acts on it, so that if I ever apply for a festival or approach a producer, I can just quickly copy some links and go, hey, here's some, you know, stuff about me, or if here's my channel, you know, take a look. So that's not something I update regularly, but I think it's important to have, so it's a visual representation of my art form. It's exactly as it is. LinkedIn has been great because it has actually given me a few performance opportunities in more of a corporate world. And I tend to, this is a bit of a trick actually, LinkedIn kind of works like Facebook at the moment. It's changed, the platform's changing. It's not just about professional relationships. It is about connecting with other colleagues and things, and being a little bit more casual. So I definitely treat LinkedIn like Facebook. So I'll pretty much just copy and paste my posts from Facebook, maybe tweak the wording a little bit. But I'm not really thinking about, oh, I've got to post on LinkedIn today. I'm posting for Facebook and I'm posting for Instagram. They're like my top two. And I might copy a couple of posts to LinkedIn. Or when I get my show, a piece of a footage, a show, I might pop that up on YouTube. It's their secondary. So my primary would be Facebook and Instagram, because that's where I find I spend most of my time. It's where I get most of my engagement. People are talking with me, they're sharing my posts. I want to talk with them, and that's where I find I'm getting a lot of that communication back and forth. Whereas Twitter for me didn't work for me, so I deleted it, and I don't feel bad about it at all. It's one less thing I have to worry about now.
I deleted it a couple of years ago because I thought the only time I'm really engaging with Twitter is perhaps a big festival or something, and I am there and I might want to live tweet the show. But really, for once every blue moon, when I was getting into it, it wasn't worth it. And it's also it's a very negative social media space, I think, because it's so quick, and you have to be on there all the time, commenting really rapidly and quickly with Twitter. And it's not very visual, and we are visual artists at the end of the day. It's all about, you know, the aesthetic side of burlesque is very, you know, so much about our identities as performers. So I felt like Twitter it was a natural thing to slowly wind that on back, because there was just not, you know, it's not necessarily the first place that especially someone's going to book me on.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I don't think not that it can't be done, but I haven't really. I mean, definitely it might be a place. I mean, if you're like comedic, maybe that might be a good place, but I don't know, I just kind of feel like it's, I think like you said, it's a very visual platform and a visual art, and that's not a visual platform. So.
Yeah, if you were a political performer, a satiric, I would say it's a great space to be. But you're a bit more about sharing personal things, or you're more about the look and wanting to share your image. Yeah, it's not really functional for that.
Yeah, I agree. But I mean, I think ultimately you want to build some sort of reach to find out who your target audience is. Going back to the question.
Yeah. Well done.
A little bit there. I think, getting a bit of reach to know who your audience actually is. So testing out some things, testing out different platforms, testing out different ways of communicating, whether it's live videos or recorded things, or, beautifully shot professional photos or selfies, and finding what your target audience likes and who your target audience is really important. And then you can start building engagement and a bit more of a loyal following, which ultimately then kind of leads to more reach anyway. So the more loyal and engaged your following is, then the more that are like-minded and have similar qualities and traits. So
yeah, and I think you touched on it before as well when you talked about LinkedIn and tweaking things, and that it's each platform is so different. And I think one of the things I see, or the mistakes I think maybe people make, is copying and pasting really literally from Facebook to Instagram, or using something that they might put on Snapchat on Facebook. And it is important that there is a bit of a difference depending on what sort of medium you're using, or your website is a little bit different. It's just not blanket.
Yeah, definitely. I think there are different reasons or purposes for using each one, and you kind of need to think about what's the purpose of me posting this on this platform, and what do I want to get out of it from my audience? Is it that I just want them to see a little bit of me and my personal side? I might put something like that if it's about my cat, for example, who's sitting beside me right now. I might put that in my Instagram stories, because that's not something that's about me as a performer on stage, but it's a little insight into my life. And a lot of people that know me will know Binks, my cat. So it's kind of nice to have those little things. But it's definitely something that I think about, or where am I going to place that, and what platform is it going to work well on, so that I keep the integrity of myself as a performer and the reputation that I've built, as well as getting engagement. So, not ruining my reputation and my professionalism just to get a few likes.
Yeah, and it's giving the audience the opportunity to sometimes, if they want to know a little bit more about you, whatever it is, how much you're willing to share, obviously, but understanding a little bit more about you that they might not get just by being front of house at a show, if they don't get to meet you, or they don't get to come backstage and those things. But it's sometimes nice for people to get a bit of a glimpse into those things, and it is thinking about where those audience members are and which platform really helps them connect with you a little bit more authentically.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that helps build those loyal followers, or the super fans that keep coming back and wanting to interact with you and buying tickets to your shows, or constantly sharing your stuff and commenting about.
And they're the people that we all want, really, because the ones that are keeping us, like especially now, they're the ones that are keeping us employed and sane, relatively.
Absolutely.
Or positive, keeping you looking forward to the next show. So that is so important. You're right.
Yeah, I mean, the most precious promotion that you can get is recommendations from other people. So that word of mouth from genuine people is gold. It's absolutely priceless.
Absolutely.
So yeah, definitely something we want to build.
Yeah, and I think when I'm thinking about that, and performers, maybe watching this and thinking, well, how do I get a super fan, even one, or a small little community around me? What are your sort of, if they were going to wake up tomorrow and do something differently on social media, is there something that you think, if I could just grab a few performers tomorrow and, get them to do what I said, what would it be? What would be the thing we could all do tomorrow that might make a bit of a difference?
I think a big thing about social media is being social and your ability to communicate with people. And I think something we forget about because we're constantly putting things out to people and we're saying, this is my art and watch this thing and what do you think of this, that we forget to sit back and listen. And I think listening is super important to figuring out what your audience wants to see, because if you're finding out what your audience are actually engaging with and you're looking back and you're actually doing a little bit of research into what's worked well so far or what's worked well for different other people, read those analytics and see then that's more that I should be putting out there, and being consistent with your brand and finding your brand and everything, but understanding that viewpoint of the other person and being sensitive, what am I going to put out there so I can respond and we can build that communication together. So I think listening is super important, but I'll always go back to branding, and if you don't know who your brand is, then
you're buggered.
Definitely go out and find that out.
Yes. And I think when you think about your brand, it is an opportunity. I think one of the tips you gave me perhaps, or when you were starting the Profitable Performer group that we talked about, was it does give you a chance to think about your values and what's your key values. What are the kind of ride or die principles that you have, I think is something that when you're building your brand, you can always come back to. And so that does help you think about who you are, what gigs do you even want to take.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's not about getting all the gigs, it's about getting the right gigs. I did some great branding stuff with Holly Mae Johnson, who runs the 21st Century Burlesque magazine. And her big thing was get niche. And you don't have to get all the gigs because that's going to open up more opportunities for you later on anyway, because people are going to want to come to you. To hide or not because you'll be surprised at how many people like that particular very specific thing.
Yeah. And if that's what fuels your flames or fuels your fire, then you've got to go with it, really. You've got to be really true to yourself a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because otherwise that's what, when we see performers that, maybe feeling a bit down or a bit miserable, I think it's when you've strayed too far from your values or from doing performances that you really love. It's a fine line, obviously, between keeping the bills paid.
Yes. Having that balance. Yeah.
But ultimately, the more that, you hone back in on your values and stuff and what's important to you, it does seem to, I think it does really help.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I definitely agree.
And I think the best tip as well, the other one I think that you give a lot of people is about being social, is trying to challenge yourself to comment, give yourself a little challenge for how many comments to make. Like proper ones, not just, oh, nice. Like, but like to really, because that actually is about challenging yourself to listen, like you would listen when you're having a conversation with a friend. You follow all these amazing performers or other amazing leaders or people that you adore on social media, and there's an opportunity to have a conversation with them like you would have with a friend.
Absolutely. And who doesn't like having someone reach out to them and say something nice, get a compliment? I mean, even the top of the top love that, there's nothing to say that, people don't love having a comment or something nice said about them. But yeah, thinking about something specific to say to somebody rather than just, nice or awesome is definitely a way to make a connection rather than, it's just something that doesn't take much thought.
Definitely. And my kind of final question, I think, was thinking about the performers that really do kill it on social media. So if there are people in burlesque that you just go, oh, they have just got, Instagram down, they're just all over it. Who you, like I can think of, in my head, who I just go, oh, they're just doing everything right. I want to be that person. Who is it for you that you just look and think, they really know what they're doing, or they are super lucky and just seem to have the knack?
Just have the knack. Oh, it's hard. There's quite a few people, and it's been interesting to see who has sort of kept up that consistency during COVID and or who stepped up as well and sort of, you know, use this time to make a bit more content and get a bit more connected with their audience. So I think someone that does an amazing job 24/7 all year round is Marilyn Mocktail. I think she's really great at her communication. She has utilized TikTok, that new platform, to create some awesome, super fun, creative videos, and it still sticks with her brand. I mean, she was creating little videos and content and stuff like that before, but I think that platform's been really great for her because it just adds that extra little bit of it currently doing to like another level, and I think that's been really great for her and her branding. So I'm just trying to think Australian performers as well, because I'll keep it local.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Someone else that I'm thinking is doing awesome is, and always does, is Jazita from Canberra.
Yeah.
I think she always really thinks about who her audience is and how to give value. She always gives heaps of value in terms of her classes and her performances. She's always trying to create something new and unique. And I know that was in the works before COVID came into play, but that online platform to connect fan dancers all around the world to, you know, create this amazing performance that they're all going to do together is so cool. It's such an awesome idea, and I think she's always coming up with these really unique ideas and these concepts to connect people and you know, teach them too and get them involved. So I think she's another person that does an awesome job.
Yeah, definitely. It's nice to just blow smoke up people's asses a little bit. And just
someone that's great at communication, I think, has been really good is May de la Rue. May de la Rue from Sydney. She consistently has a great message of connecting people from all over Australia when she goes and does her burlesque catch-ups, but she's also doing a whole lot of virtual things. And she reaches out and sends messages, because I know we chat on a regular basis, which is really lovely. And she's always really great at sharing her content. I think she's got a really strong message, and I think that really comes across really well. And I think her communication with her message and her values is really great.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're my top like 3 Aussie ones, I think, that are still sort of kicking goals right now, that, you know, you could head over to their Facebook newsfeed and go, wow, yeah, I can see how they're still
it gives you something to be
their
excited
brand and stuff.
Yeah, it gets you excited. And it's also that thing, if you do have to look, you know, what appeals to different as well, or what appeals to different people. So I think sometimes when I'm thinking about my own work and what I like about other people's feeds, I think that's also a really good way to get in touch with your brand, and what you want to share is what do you love about watching other people's feed. What is it, you know, that's exciting? So if it's watching TikTok, it's not watching Marilyn do TikTok, it's all the things that go into that. It's her personality, not just, oh yeah, she does a cute video, or that's my sort of read.
The outcome.
I get excited about it. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, definitely. Yes, because my Instagram girl crush is obviously Ginger Valentine, and it was one of But I was just like, you know what I like is that she does not take herself too seriously, and there's a nice balance of showing show footage or like performance footage, and also showing some of her life, especially with the corona and the lockdowns and stuff. And that's something that I've been enjoying more than I thought I would. I thought I just used to like seeing pretty pictures, and when I've realised it's a really nice thing to be given that privilege of saying a bit more. Then you just don't always get. And I think that's been really nice about watching lots of performers do that as well. That's just, you know, front of my mind.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a really nice opportunity for, you know, people to get a bit more personal. And ultimately that's more relatable too. I mean, people love looking at glossy magazines and, you know, keeping up with the Kardashians and all that sort of thing, because they love seeing behind the scenes, like what goes on in their real everyday life.
True, definitely. So look, there we go. Hopefully if people have bore through I'm not quite sure, bore with us,
gone through
this with us, they've stuck around, that hopefully they've managed to sit through 30 minutes of two people having sort of social media crushes, but I've also got some really good tips on communications and just thinking, maybe just lighting up a spark or thinking a little bit more about what you're doing online, especially as we're online so much more right now. I will put, for everyone below, I'll put below in some links, Camilla's group, which is the Profitable Performer, totally free. You can go and join, and there's little challenges and ideas about what you can do each day to maybe make your communication and your brand stronger. But I definitely recommend, you know, if you want a bit more one-on-one time or something more personal, like reach out to Camilla. I'll pop her details. I won't put a personal number, put her like professional details. And I'll pop a couple of my accounts below. If there's other things that you want to follow, you know, come and find me on social media. If there's other workshops or tips and things that we can host, just let me know what would be helpful, especially at the moment where people are thinking, maybe a bit more doing that strategic thinking or taking time out to do planning. We don't always get the chance to do it. So I think it's an opportune moment.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're not going to have another moment like this for a while, so let's take advantage of this time.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, well.
Fingers crossed. I hope everyone stays safe. I always end off with stay safe, stay sexy. I've kind of paraphrased my favourite murder. But there you go. It's the burlesque.
I like that.
Okay, good night.
Bye.